And we get into being humans and souls again, because what's really happening here is I'm watching many of the elders look at the situation and then not exactly know what to do with it, but at the same time have carried this message for a period and over a bridge in which took them a lot of time and effort and energy to actually do. And so what I'm saying is that our knowledge is collective. We are all building something here. And when another person assesses what another man and woman may have learned or experienced, we add that to our experience. And then we formulate an entirely different outlook on the reality. And we innovate. That's what I want the key word to be tonight. We innovate. We take every single thing that we have at our disposal and all the knowledge that we know to be the truth, and then we decide what we're going to do. But the reason why I want this tonight for everyone to be a very serious message is because you have to realize where exactly you are on the plane, which I'm going to elaborate on tonight, and you have to realize what can and cannot be done in this world and the extent of that, especially based upon what you've already been able to achieve or accomplish in this reality. And what I'm saying is that the people that we and the beings that we are being victimized by are victimizing because they understand a certain higher law. It's very simple when you really think about it. If you have the right knowledge, you can do wonderful things with it. But if you get pre-programming and you get disinformation and you get untruths on top of the real knowledge, then everything is going to be pretty much misinterpreted. So tonight, what has to be done is more of a balanced interpretation of what symbolism means. And this is most important because any symbol, whether you're looking at it from the left hemisphere or the right hemisphere of your consciousness, is going to take you down a certain direction and have you perceiving things from that hemisphere. But you can only really absorb that symbol and absorb that depth of reality if you see it balanced. So if there's anything that you ever wanted to ask for, like the one wish, if they say if you have one wish in the world, what would you want to wish for? Wish to be balanced, because with balance, everything can be achieved. With imbalance, you'll go nowhere. Our world is an example. We're living in a world where when people try to expand beyond the normal state of consciousness, there is constant minion behavior, meaning all sorts of quirks and problems with the systems, ghosts in the machine, all sorts of things that are created from out of thin air to block or impede the message and to impede expansion. And the reason that is because it's something that we're doing. We have it hard-coded in our minds now, failure, and that we have now given up because we think that who's in control of the reality has some great power. They're just aware of certain things, and that's what I want to bring tonight. I want to bring the awareness of certain spaces that once you have this knowledge, and this is it tonight, once you have this knowledge, it's on you now. It's not on president, judge, law book, language, God even. It's not on any of that. It's on your soul. And that's what needs to be also elaborated upon in this conversation is the difference between a soul and a human, which is a physical vessel. So let's get right into this. I want to first start off by saying we're going to go for a brand new innovative approach, because the way that we're approaching spirituality right now in the consciousness of the soul, at the rate in which this planet is decaying, it will not suffice where we need to go with this. We need to get to a point where we realize that all of what we've collected thus far has still not given us the ability to shape, mold, and fashion the reality into a balanced sphere of beauty, something that we can see all the time and begin to have an energetic, positive, intimate relationship with. Meaning that if you can't go into your room, into your bedroom, or into your kitchen, or onto the radio or onto the phone, and have a generating experience that gives you energy, then you will die. Because every single avenue that you go to, it's pulling energy. So this innovative approach is about us. It's about creating an organic grid out of individuals. The only ones that are really real, the only ones that have all the equipment is us. Now, there's certain things that you need to understand about this equipment known as the human body, which is based on phi. And I'm also, I need to be aware of the time here very briefly, just so I can condense my message into the time that's actually remaining. I'll just have to get that in my chat box. If somebody could just send to me how much time is left in the show, that will really help.
We have an hour before we go into the recording, so you're fine.
Okay, great. And how much of the recording time can other people hear again that have called in? Is it like 30 more minutes?
Well, no, that would be, once it goes into the recording, the only ones who can continue listening are ones that are actually on the call. So that won't be very many. So try to get it in before then. That'd be okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so what this is about is this is again about a new approach. This is about changing the effects of when a society believes that God or the supreme being is outside of them. Now, we're living in a reality where people by the masses believe that who God is some being that's aloft somewhere, not paying attention. This is a grave problem because the state of our reality and the power that we have as each individual is still based on our idea of what the supreme is. So our highest state and concept is a word that everyone is calling God. That is the highest that they can think of. And so because of that, and because that is the highest level of ambition that a person can achieve here in this reality, that is why we have such a great level of failure in the reality as far as how much energy each individual can push out. Because if anyone is cracked into this knowledge thus far, you know that you are the God, you are the soul, you are the supreme being. So now we look at a reality where they are pulling energy from something external that has died a long time ago. And that's why the name for God is generally Deus, Dios, meaning to divide, something that is already dead. God does not live in the world. God lives somewhere else, mainly in heaven. Heaven is more like a dream world, somewhere you go after you die. So do you see how this kind of suggestive thinking allows the person to basically place their energy outside of them? And then once that energy is trapped and taken from them, they then start to worship and wander after things that are not the truth, trying to find their light. They're wandering after glimmers of what may be the truth, but is not the complete truth. So tonight we want to get into the complete truth, but the only way that we can do that is for a person to realize that you are caught up in the hemispheres of your consciousness. You're either going on the right brain, positive, negative, or the left brain, positive or negative. But as you volley the thoughts back and forth to what you think is good and okay, this is the constant state that you're in, from thought to thought to thought to thought. And this is somewhat of a very imaginative principle, because not much gets accomplished when you're just going from thought to thought to thought. Things get accomplished when you start to focus. Now, if you notice, when you say focus, you can also immediately think of almost like a vortex in itself, almost like a straight line within itself, because focus snaps things back to the middle and says, this is exactly what I need to do. So if you saw that, especially in your brain, that would be the corpus callosum. That is the area that is in between the two hemispheres of your brain. The reason why this area is so important is because it is responsible for bridging the thoughts between the left and the right brain, because they speak a different language. So if the human being has a corpus callosum which is mainly burned out, this means that the bridge in your area is burned. The bridge in your brain is burned. Now, you know how they have that saying that says you shouldn't burn bridges. This is where that saying comes from, is that the bridge in your head between the left and the right is burned. They're no longer communicating with each other. Now, this bridge is known also in the Nordic tradition as bifröst. It's known in our times, of course, as the corpus callosum through science. It's known as the rainbow bridge through the indigenous cultures. And this is because it has the ability to merge all of the colors of the chakras, to put things in balance. And so if I come to tell you today that there is a new position opening up in the galaxy, one that will fulfill your desires of astral current. It is a walker of the bifröst, one who can cross over the rainbow bridge. This is the same concept of one who is in between both worlds or can go between two worlds. This is one who moves in the alpha frequency. What is the alpha frequency? See, most people think that the more hertz you have in the body, the more power you have. Not true. The lower the hertz, the more the brain and the organism and olfactories and glands, the less hertz you move on, 7, 8 hertz, 9 hertz, etc. Those are the alpha frequencies. The more the brain can really, really use what it's capable of doing. It taps you into what we call the spiritual world. And so I'm here to tell you that there are individuals that know how to, the novices can do it within a count of 10. The masters can do it at a moment, take themselves into alpha state. Now, the moment they go into alpha state, they can see the physical reality and also what looks like the dream weaving over the top of it. This is why most people get scared about these kind of abilities in the alpha state and what it means to be in the alpha state is because it feels paranormal. It feels like something may have moved out of the corner of your eye. This is the beginning onset of moving into alpha phase because you are now between both worlds. And the benefit of this is that you can see the objects and things in which truly control things and the ways in which to truly change things. This is the logical positive side, left positive side of the brain. So I come to tell you that the connection within the hemispheres of this being that we're calling the human is the connection between the ancient knowledge of the Lemurians and the Atlanteans. We have to understand that because this is the highest level of knowledge that is available in our system, this is our past. Our past is all of what our bodies and beings are composed of, the genes and the trials and tribulations that they go through, the metamorphosis that they go through. So all of what we have here is really memory. So we have to see that our ancient memory and also our ancient quarrels are caught up in two empires where one was the foundation of things. The Lemurians built the netherworld. They do what we call spooky stuff. We can't even idealize with it because we're now so left brain logical, physical, material people. We couldn't even visualize what the Lemurians and the Cometans had created within their bringing souls into the dimensions and putting them inside organic vessels. They always go out to the Egypt and they're, it's a power plant. These people have no clue of what's going on because they can't see. Now, this is the interesting part. When an individual can see, meaning when you have a third eye and you have gnosis, it's very easy for you to tell when others don't have it. It is a frequency. So what makes up a great deal of our spiritual teaching these days is individuals who have not pierced the veil. They have not had the dark night of the soul. They have not had that dance with Kundalini, that dance of death where you die or basically deconstruct your old self. Now, the plane that you're living on, I'll give it to you in the Nordic tradition, is called JOTUNHEIM. In the Sanskrit tradition, or in the tradition of the chakras, the wheels, it's the Malkuth, in the Jewish tradition. It's the Muladhara chakra. And this plane has its specific rules, specific laws, specific makeup. But what it talks about is the creatures of Jotunheim are animalistic. They believe in only materialism. They don't have a heavy spiritual inclination because this plane is what they say is ruled by the giants. Now, the false ideology of the giants is first to put them in human bodies or the body of a man, the body of a woman. You are not dealing with people. You are dealing with energies. We are all energies. So these giant energies, as they're saying, and the ones that cause the urge of a child to go into puberty, cause the urge of a woman to ovulate. These are, in the tense of the mythology, giants, because they can move massive amounts of things at one time. And as you see, there are certain planets in our proximity and celestial bodies in our proximity that govern that, such as the moon. And this is why the moon became known as the Lord, or the star that is lowered, the closest one. and how it affects the growth here. Because when you look at all languages, but we'll go back to the Elder Futhark rune for today, or the first letter of the Hebrew and the Arabic language, alif, or in the Futhark rune is fehu. What is this? It is an oxen, a bovid, a boss, a uru. Why? Because it means it means wealth. B means mobile wealth. Why would how this connect to language? What are they saying in this deep code of ME? They're saying that the first thing that a being ever seeks out to do in this stage of consciousness of where these beings have reached is to get energy. That is wealth or currency to them. And the reason why they show it as a bovid, and you'll see in many of the sacrifices in the ancient days that the cows being sacrificed brought certain energy to a specific deity. Okay? So now if you keep going in it, you'll find out that there's a deep connection within then the next letter, which is B in our human race. As it says in the first letter is really B, it's bris, meaning the beginning, right? The birth. Why? Because that letter means mobile current, mobile energy. Domesticated is the actual term. Domesticated energy, meaning that this energy is now trained to a point where you can take it with you. Now, zoom out of the constellation where we're at. Zoom out of the planet that we're at. Are we mobile energy now? Have we become beings that you can just drop us into a world? We'll start to fertilize the world over and over again, continuously dropping our seeds here. We don't know what's going on. Our children don't know what's going on. And then all of our energy is being sucked up somewhere where we don't even know. That sounds like mobile energy. So this is easy as ABC when you want to know where you are, because and they say oftentimes the supreme beings, the bodhisattvas, etc., visit the realm of the giants. Because it contains a part of them, meaning that stop thinking that every single thing around you is outside of you and separate than you. Put it all inside of you and then analyze it for what it really is. The giants live inside of you. There's the gods. This is what happens when you fall into delta frequency and then go into theta frequency. You actually can interface, if you can stay conscious there, with the gods. Who are the gods? Ancient versions of ourselves. It's basically like having a bad dream if you haven't got yourself together. Because the only thing that you're going to actually see is another variation of yourself to the degree in which you understand yourself in your supreme stance. What am I talking about? I'm not trying to make you confused here. I'm telling you that what they're calling gods and supreme beings exist inside of you. They are sleep. That is why you are not exhibiting the potential that you really have. This frequency is called delta theta. It is very similar to being asleep. You cannot actually control yourself there. That's the same thing as in the dream, where you can see the dream, but you can't actually move the body unless you go into alpha, which is generally achieved between 3:30 to 5:30 in the morning. Some human beings go into alpha, and then it's easier for them to see their dream and then also to control their dream. But what if you're on alpha all the time? Now, this is a simple technique in the sense of how many different things how long you would have to go through to unlock certain abilities. But this one becomes most valuable because it gives you the ability to see. So the reason why I'm explaining to you like this is because there are individuals around you in your society. You think it's 1% of them that can see, meaning they can walk in between two planes. So the next thing for you to do is to realize how to level the playing field, how to actually become aware of what you have not been aware of. And it has a lot to do with your fears. The fear causes our system to draw back, to close up. So our third eye is closed up because we have a fear of seeing the netherworld. Now, physically, if you wanted to say, well, where is the netherworld physically? Like, what is the other correspondence on the planet of the netherworld? The deep ocean. That's why most of the temples and pyramids from the netherworld are still in the deep ocean. So that connection is now accounting for why most people are afraid of deep water. Okay? Like, they don't feel comfortable in the netherworld. It's more denser. It's harder to move. You need a lot more energy to move through there. It feels like a jello even. And this becomes the beginning of the trip for the bifröst walker, meaning the individual who is to achieve balance must walk over these fields. And the reason why I say that you have to deconstruct yourself is in the visualization, you are now tilling up the ground. Like, in a sense, the stinky beast is only fertilization. When you till it up and you start to deconstruct it, it becomes the compost. And then you can begin to plant new seeds, not seeds based on a fake language, not seeds based on your misunderstandings of the Cabal and all the different hierarchies, etc. It's a new seed that is based on your full understanding of who you are and your reality, which is everything. And this gives you the ability to walk simultaneously between two worlds. And this is why most people were afraid, because they don't want to lose their identity. So I'm giving you the keys of how to keep what you think is your identity while simultaneously tapping into your real potential as a soul, which is unlimited. And this technique, though, is like tightrope walking. You need to get good at it. And so we look into the difference between the subjective and the objective plane. The subjective plane is the realm where everything is connected. Everything that is created in the objective planes, which is the material world, have been created by the energies pulled from the subjective plane. So if you can see it as it is, the subjective plane is where souls exist. Now, the reason why you could be here on the planet is that you're attempting to achieve something that is one step above even where the soul would be at times. I mean, the soul is everything. So what is above being everything? Being nothing and everything at the same time. We have this way about us that needs to be dual at a certain point to confirm things. I call it the real. Like if you say right now, the real thing to people, then you get some wild story that's not even true. But then if you say, but just give me the real thing. And then, oh, the real? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, so I'll tell you about that. Because there's a double confirmation that needs to happen after you get into duality to progress to the next stage. So now we have to see that we have to make these double confirmations within ourselves. We have to decide to bring the two hemispheres together, so that way we can actually walk in this middle state of our consciousness where we can be balanced. That the wars that are waged in this world right now stem back parsecs. And you want to jump your 72-year-old life in here. Meaning that you're dealing with a conflict between material beings and beings of the netherworld. Supremely material or supremely ethereal. Now, the netherworld, again, is the netter world. A netter is a being that can cross between two planes. They are bridges. So in the netherworld or netherworld tradition, they weren't about just trying to explain this. They were doing this. So when you get this term Aryan, Aryan comes from the word Ari. Ari means a lion. It means a lion more times in Hebrew and in other language than it sometimes means an eagle. When the lion glorified itself, he became an eagle. But the reason why it's important to see this is because Ariel, or the angel, the lion angel, and that connection between the A in that language, and that being the first letter of most languages, we find out that the Aryans said that they were first. We got here first. We're here first. And then they put the pyramid out there, and they put the lion face in front with the human lion face and the human body, etc. What are they saying? They're lion people. They're not black. They're not white. They're like what you were looking at in Avatar. Now you go to the Dravidians, because somebody said, well, you're only mentioning one thing. You're right, because if you notice, those same Aryans connect also to that same lion that you see with Rastafarians. And that same lion that even you see in Britain right now, after the turning over of the throne and the covenants. And that's what they tell you in the Lion King. There's a bad lion and there's a good lion. There's Scar and then there's this other lion, right? This is because the first original people had the Ri bloodline in them. But there was also another group of people known as the Dravidians. The Dravidians were the ones working on the netherworld, or the planes that we needed to gain the DNA and the genes from, the primal material itself, the primordial goo. Who had to participate in that? If you ask someone now to go participate in the primordial goo, they'd be like, man, I'm scared of that. I'm too big, man. I'm not going to get in there. My shoes are going to get dirty. So who do you think actually went and created the foundation to all of this? Dra. Who's Dra? Well, in Latin, it means doctor. Dra is dragon. That is the Naga connection. That is a serpent connection. But guess what? You're talking about a genus that is so expansive, meaning you have dinosaurs, you have stegosaurus, you have lizards. So how can you limit in the human race? And this is something I was thinking about today. It's so interesting. In the human race, there are other mammals in our race. There are koala bears. There are other mammals. But out of all the mammals, we are the ones that think on this level of consciousness and begin to use complex languages, etc. But don't you think maybe the same would be for the amphibians too? We have to start thinking about what is the potential of where we're really at, because most of this stuff is all separated by vibratory frequencies. If something became the foundation for what we're standing on right now, because they lived on this planet on a spiritual level before we got VORTEX imploded into this, then they reside in another plane that we call the spiritual plane. And this is what the whole connection is with the reptiles and the dimension and what's going on. It is a primordial state of consciousness that is one of the foundations to the netherworld. It is mapped out on the body of the human as being below the waist, what we're standing on. So then what happens then if you even want to destroy what you're standing on? Because if you look at the planet is green. Looks like all these green things to me belong to the same family. Last time I saw them on the astral plane. Looks like we were actually once members of that family and also, 8 other families. Because when you're in the prism, every color kind of hangs out. Green hangs out with green, blue hangs out with blue. Everyone's got their own little hues and things. That's their individuality. But we're still in this family of this color spectrum. While the human being says, well, look, guys, I'm just going to take all of the colors and I'm going to put them all into the same body. And then wonder why we have such a conflictive state of thought if we cannot find balance. If we cannot collapse all colors back into the clear light. As I talked about on the other show, you got people meditating on white light. That white is a color. Black is a color. Clear is the absence of color. You need to meditate on the clear light, if anything. So what we're talking about here is we're talking about giving people the ring back. Now, if you notice, a tree has rings, and each ring that it gets serves to strengthen it more and more. But it has to pursue through those seasons in order for it to get to that next ring. So we have to see reality, especially in this physical body, is being the ring. It is a collective of all of the experiences that people had that, man, you can only read about them in encyclopedias. Some of you can't even read about. Sailors, travelers, inventors, explorers. This is the lineage that we have to tap into. But what do we choose to tap into? The dark side of it. Meaning the ignorant side, not the netherworld. Some people think the netherworld has to do with dark magic, Europa and Europe. No, that is the corruption. So there's another thing that needs to be brought forth here is about the others, the ones that you cannot see. They don't even feel like you deserve to see them. These are the spirits, because we start talking about in a deeper conversation the difference between a spirit and a soul. A spirit being more of a classification of beings that you can encompass in the soul family, but they have separated themselves based on their ilk and their abilities. So we still have going on the ethereal planes some levels of division. And right now our world is locked in a battle with invisible forces. That's why I said don't visualize people, they are energies. They have learned to sustain themselves off of these kinds of realities. Getting energy from someone else. That's actually what's going on here. Why get energy from someone else when you're an atom? You can generate so much energy. Why would you ever need to borrow from someone else? If I told you once you activate the vessel, you are like an atomic gyroscope. That's the only reason why you can walk around now. You're on a globe that's supposedly spinning and you're upside down. The only thing that exhibits the proper object of where you would even be able to walk around in that kind of situation was a gyroscope. What does a gyroscope do? It constantly spins. What does the aura do? It constantly spins. So what happens if you increase the spin? If you increase the spin, then you start to tap into the other frequency. You become biolocal. You start to be able to see what's next door. And so this is the beginning and the tapping into our next state of consciousness, because you have to make sure that you leave this husk for something greater. When you leave the body, you'll leave a shell here. It's based on phi. It'll be just like the ones laying out at the beach, except for this one will be made out of bones. But when you go to your next stage, because surely ye shall not die, you are immortal. The next world you go in, let it be your choice. Do not let it be another reality that you were attracted to because you were only attracted to the opposite. You wanted revenge. This is what happens when a person gets into the negative right brain. They get scarred up in there, and then they want to live a life in the negative left brain. And they bounce back and forth. They even do it in this life. They want to live the high level of consciousness, but at the same time want to grind people to the dirt and kill them, even though they can't die. You see what I mean? This is the signs of the conflictive mind, and we all suffer from it. It's one of the most unreported diseases. They don't want to report it. This is a product of when you go into low spin, you wobble. Like when the planet spins very fast, like a top, there's no wobble. Think about it. When you have a top and you spin it very fast, there's no wobble. But the more it slows down, it starts to wobble. That's why our planet's wobbling. That's why our auras are wobbling. That's why we're becoming partial now to either the right side or the left side, the masculine or the feminine. We're even reincarnating polarized. We come in as a male, we come in as a female, and then we play this game with these game masters. And that's why I say, I'm the game changer. I didn't exclude anything. I had enough imagination to put everything in there. Go ahead and put that in the closet. Oh, go ahead and set that up in the bathroom. Go ahead and set that up in the big room downstairs. Meaning every time that there was a concept that may have some facts lingering on it, I didn't go off and just believe in it and live my life as if it was true. I stored it and said, let's see if we can find other connections to you. Because if you're really true, I'll find other connections. Like, for instance, in the Atlantean tradition now, then you have, or the Atlantean and the Aryan, you have the lion. And the Dravidian, you have the dragon. So then, when you put them together, you get a composite being that is basically a lion dragon. Now, last time I saw that same composite being, it was known as Yaldabaoth. Meaning it was known as the being that the Gnostics had such a problem with because it was a being that thought that it was God and that it was the only God. Now I'm showing you it was our own consciousness. It's a zoomorphication of our own consciousness. When we begin to worship ourselves as the gods in low esteem, just as bodies and as physical beings. This is the whole play of Christianity. The only goal out of all the rhetoric of Apollonius of Tyana and Pythagoras was to get you to believe that the pentagram or phi or the physical body is God. That's why the last age was when man, quote unquote, manna, the one who's made of material, flesh, deifies itself. And that's what, and then we call it the devil. It's like, oh my goodness, the devil. Yeah, he's Zeus, a diva. It's basically a fleshly being, but flesh is slowed down light. It is still a plasma-based life form, but slowed down plasma on wobble. That's why it's blind or partial. It likes chosen. It's jealous. This is all objective plane stuff. And what happens in the subjective plane is that it all merges into, it becomes the substance in which all this stuff is created. It knows how not to play this game if it doesn't want to, and how to play both games if it does. It's not stuck thinking it's one or the other. And this is what we need to realize, is that in this plane right now, our connectivity with each other is still based on the frequency that each of us are on. If you connect with people and their frequency is off, there's no frequency match. All sorts of things that happen. It takes you a while before you can line up with them. So we're trying to progress here. We're not just trying to say we found out the whole thing and we're all doomed. We're actually saying that, hey, I think that we haven't discovered enough. I don't think that the arcs that they were talking about on the covenant had anything to do with this box with birds on top of it. I think it had everything to do with implosion. And that's another subject of this conversation, because what was in those books that were sequestered by the paranormal division, as they spent to today's equivalent of 16 billion, I believe, or $9 billion, today's equivalent of that was put into the paranormal division to march soldiers into the area of Tibet to sequester the books that gave the knowledge of implosion, because the response from implosion is a stargate. What am I talking about? When you actually go inside to a certain extent, you warp. You go to another world. You call this the dream now, but there's more of them. That's why each night you go into a different dream almost. How many of these dreams are there? Well, there's an infinite amount of worlds. So what if you can control that? So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the knowledge of implosion. But the issue with implosion is that once you implode, you open up a gate. And this was the metaphor behind, when they do rituals, they open up these gates, and if the gates are left open, then other spirits come in. Well, it's more like when you implode, you go to the other dimension. And if you go to a dimension that's tainted, you bring the taint back here. And then it infects the rest of the dimension from you. This is why no element was ever seen as powerful. Only the soul was seen as powerful, because the soul was needed in order to give life to any element. And I'll say that again. The souls are needed to give life to any element, or else it is lifeless. You don't think about Amen. You don't think about Ra. You don't think about any of that. It doesn't exist. That's just how the subjective plane works. It does not account at all for any kinds of separation. It won't stand for it. It doesn't believe it. So, as I said before, this is now the opportunity for you to see what the benefits of being born in this kind of reality, or birthed in this kind of reality, is. If you've seen now both worlds, you've seen the nether world and you've seen the material world. Now marry them. If you do not marry them, if you keep fighting them against each other, this is just like your parents fighting. You know that the end result is going to equal sadness. So that's where the world is living in right now. The two poles divorced. They were divided from one another. The spirit world, which is the nether world, the blackness as they call it. And then this material world, blinded by the light. Everything that projected from that huge ball into the hypercube, the huge ball of light hanging out in the sky. Who do you think that is? Nothing. They got us now thinking we don't even investigate anymore. In a hypercube, you only need one large light to project. And then all the light that it's emitting, that's why they call it the soul or the sun. All the light that it's emitting gets trapped in the cube, or the corners in incubation, in the angle or the angel, the L. They get caught in the corner, and then they coalesce. Then the word, which is L, is spoken. And the word becomes a world. You see the L added to the word, and it make it a world, as the God becomes trapped. And this is why when the God of the Bible says, I'm the creator, if you're saying it from inside, you're definitely not the creator. Meaning that if you're saying it from inside of the planet, how could you be the creator? Think about what you're inside of. And guess what? Any being that says it's the creator can never touch the subjective plane. Why? Nothing's been created there. It's unbegotten. It's beyond the senses of, it's limitless. Our sheer existence is the proof of it. This is what makes it so mind-boggling. You can drive infinite worlds of energy with just this thought if you knew how to manipulate it. Your existence is the proof that there is no such thing as birth. You come from the unbegotten. Yet if you ask anyone here to explain to you how can things come from nothing, they're baffled. They're lambs waiting for a shepherd. The stars still are shepherding people. The angels are the angels. Do you think that this, while you're still trying to figure out how to stand up again, this thing is just going unmanaged? Would you leave it unmanaged? Some people, they get a little bitty company these days and don't leave it unmanaged. So why would you have a beautiful world and leave it unmanaged if you had some level of control? So the ones that control this world, when you allow them to, are the ones that know the knowledge of the language. Mentally, physically, spiritually, they know the keys. So to equip yourself properly, mentally, physically, spiritually, you have to gain the keys. Once you gain the keys, then there's no more pen, no more pentagram, no more phi, no more serpent realm. Okay? And then once that fades away, and then you begin to cross into between two worlds, you become all seeing and all knowing. You create from there. See, and this is why some people say, well, where do we go next then? And what's going? It's based on what you want to do, silly. That's the whole thing. It only takes one action. And once you're clear, you go where you want. That's why everyone's idea of it is different. Every time you ask someone, well, what'd you see over there? They go off with this huge story. It's okay as long as they don't start inferring that that is the only place to go to. But this is the kind of world that we live in. So I want to take a moment. I believe that we're maybe crossing into that hour period according to my clock here on the thing. I'm not sure. But I just want to, maybe some people want to call in. I know there was quite a few callers or people earlier that said they had some questions. But, you know, this is time for the real answers. Obviously, things are being recorded, so we'll be able to get this recording to people later on if they can't afford to keep tuning in as far as their time. But this is it. Like, I can actually give the keys, and I'm going to continue to release the keys here today on to today's show. I'm going to continue to release the keys about exactly how this reality is put together and how to actually maneuver yourself in it. But I'm not going to play. Like, anytime I get on the shows, any show, I always think this is my last show. I'm going to give you a message as if you heard it for the first time. You only need to hear it one time. I'm not trying to get your money. I don't need to hang out with you. I don't need you to friend me. I don't need you to like me. I don't need any of that. That is called self-substantiation. Perpetual. Perpetual meaning if you don't want it, it's fine with me. Someone else will gladly receive it because I'm bringing it on a platter. But once we all begin to feast from it, meaning that we all begin to understand, sacrifice yourself. That's the greatest sacrifice. This, all of what you've built here and this idea of who you think you are, that's the only real sacrifice. That's the only real animal sacrifice. That's when you take the animal side of yourself and say, hey, it's time for a burnt offering. Because what's about to happen is I'm about to transmute you. You're going to become ash. As I say, it's the ash tree. You're going to become ash, and then we're going to use you to ferment and create something stronger. And then we will live together like that. This is what you have to tell also the ones that are weaker in mind, because they think you're going to leave them too. They're scared that they don't have their mobile well, because they know that they've done enough to make everyone not want to deal with them anymore. Who are they? Kids. Primordial. Real badasses. How do you know? That's how they're always depicted. The angels are kids. They are the primordial energies. They're still in that me, worship me, worship me. If you understand, even Santos was bringing it up earlier, Pharaoh, that once the idea of the Cain or the Khan came into the land of Canaan, and then it was bolted on with the priest craft, which is the Cohen, that's what Cain means, the priest king. That was it. That's when you saw the close of this entire reality from there, because it meant that if one was greater, then everyone was lesser. Now you see why they call him the King of Kings? It creates the ultimate level of division. When you say I am, that means everyone else is not. These are simple plays on words that cause massive manifestations within the person's energy field if they begin to accept these kind of concepts. Even in the language, 26 letters, where's your other 26? On this system, you needed 52 to create one cabal. So where's the other half of the English language? First of all, where did this language even come from? And could we be confused because we're speaking a confused language? Absolutely. This language is ruined. It's a broke rune. It's even after the elder Futhark runes, they immediately broke them by adding 4 or 5 extra runes. It's happened in every language. Now it's from Hebrew to Yiddish. Now it's Arab language to another version, another variation, another update. Why? To remove the power from the language. It's a constant update to remove the power. Think about even our realities in the computers. When there's an update, It removes the ability for you to go and do it, and it installs a button. It's an automatic feature. So, oh, no, don't worry, we'll do it for you. What is this to keep you? This is to keep you dependent. It is to keep you from self-substantiation and knowing the secret to your vehicle. Now you have to utilize all of this that you have now, because what I'm telling you, you can go and research. You can get onto this internet and you can Google all night. If you really have the intention to get beyond this, you will find it. I'm just an individual here in this world that has achieved it and is not afraid to speak it and has given some level of eloquence to actually be able to put it out so people can somehow begin to comprehend it. But can you feel it? Because that's the whole thing with the left brain logical side of the MK Ultra. You can actually even comprehend what a person's saying, but does it change what you do tomorrow? That's the true sign of change. And the ancients knew this. They didn't play around with ideas in the mind that weren't going to be manifest. Those were thoughts against their own will. You don't even say things like, "Oh, I'm so tired of them. I wish they would just die." You don't even say things like that as a netter or a bodhisattva, because they're going to die then. So do you see the power versus time out? So I'm going to tell you now to get back into this, to defeat the giants of Jotunheim, to become a walker of the bifröst, crossing your corpus callosum, activating your vehicle. You need to get into a higher frequency, higher spin. And there are multiple ways to accomplish that, from internal cleansing, but it's precise. You need cleansing. You need to cleanse out the toxins in the body, just like you would do in the car. But I tell you this, I'm not here today to give you a pitch about buy this. Some people think, you want to sell something? Look, invest in yourself. Every time you go fill up your gas tank, every time you buy a pair of shoes, every time you go and get something from the store, you are putting more into the material, which will pass away. I've watched it. It all turns to lead. It's all Saturnalian. Every single elemental compound that is trapped below the speed of light eventually becomes lead and tarnish. It is deadened. Light does not affect it. It affects light, meaning it drags others down. It's the vortex. You see what I mean? So understand where you are through the alchemy. Understand where you are through the temple, to rebuilding the Jed. Whatever kind of knowledge and information that you've got a hold of, stop externalizing it and expecting some ancient alien to hop out of somewhere inside of you. Meaning that if you want to tap into the ancient side of your consciousness, the only thing that is really going to tell you is to push on and push forth and to be strong, live strong. Meaning that in our hearts, we trudge through constant times of trials and tribulation. And now our reward is supposed to be now. We're actually in a plane with no troubles from the elements. We had come into harmony with the elements by making them a part of us. And then now we've started another war again. We've been incited to cause another war. So this is where knowledge is now. It's about taking things to the next level. It's about realizing what knowledge is important and which is just another small part of the variation of a hemisphere. Understanding where you can be centered and how much power is in that centering. And so obviously that's a portion of my message. And I would like to thank just everyone for tuning in and to getting this message. And also to let everyone know that I've been working on this consistently for about, I would say, 6 constant years now, 6 or 7 years now. And obviously I've had a childhood in being in spirituality, but never have I pushed so hard for something because I can see it in view personally for everyone, but I've already experienced it. It's something that every night you go to sleep, every moment for a great soul, everything is great. Just being present is great. It's like you don't need power from anything else. You don't need to feel like somebody has done something for you to get off for that day. It all comes from the inside, pure organic. It's orgasmic. So what the reality is trying to do is desensitize you. It tries to bring you all of the elements in so much force that you get tired of love and hate and health and sickness and all these different poles. You just get tired of it. You get burned out. And this is why you'll get tired of loving and hating and right and left and rich and poor into a certain point. Right? Meaning that you'll get tired of it until a certain point. Then you'll start doing it again. That's called the cycle. Now we have to see that, okay, this reality is not working out exactly the way we want to. That's based on because we don't understand the correct principles of it. Now we're going to go ahead and start functioning on the correct principles and watch the reality metamorphosize. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and let, I'm not sure if even Kate returned to the show or, you know, what's going on.
Yeah, Sevan, yeah.
Hello. Hello. Hey, yeah. Oh, I would have accidentally roads were pretty nasty. Yeah, I got caught in some snow and whatever. Lots of flashy lights on the way back and what have you. It's like, hey, so I'm here and. Oh my goodness! Did we get everything covered tonight that we needed to?
Yeah, I got in a little bit late, but I was able to transmit some of the message. Obviously, I kind of went earlier with just trying to connect in the line, so I just had a little bit of reset. But I feel like personally that we definitely got some message.
Crazy on this end.
Hey, that I definitely would tie that into the potency of even what I was feeling like. At 6 o'clock, I would think, you know, when I was about to come in, I just had to focus on the message itself. But at the same time, to me, you know, especially with this show, Katie, you notice we've done times where we've just continuously talked and we've recorded it, and then we've been able to release that later on to individuals. But even right now, it's like
absolutely.
It may be excessively excited just about the topic and just need to take a couple breaths. But what I really wanted to deliver within the show today and make sure that we drove home was the exact process of the emancipation. Like just to go back into your framework and to see if you may be on one hemisphere or another hemisphere, if you understand the concepts of the ancient knowledge so that it actually benefits you, not harms you. And then, because if you think about it, they say, oh, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. The only way such things like that could happen is if you understand the use of that weapon and understand how to utilize that weapon in your favor. So there's like these other parts to all this that I really want. Like when a person says, I'm ready to expand, expansion is an actual action. So if you haven't expanded yet, then we got to look into the framework and we got to see, okay, we got to go down a checklist. So did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? And when I check certain things off, if you haven't done certain things, and this is what the curriculum is about, then that will be 100% the reason why you haven't had the experience. What I'm explaining to people today is that we have a system in place now, that if a person goes through that system, they will see the expanded side of their soul.
So, and by the way, you're scheduled 7 nights a week. Got it?
I definitely know I could drop in at any time. And I remember you explaining that to me. And it's definitely something just in being a person that does shows a lot. I know what it is if you don't put it on the calendar and then an alert. You could just, like, I've run back into some stuff and been like, oh my goodness, there's a show today. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's going to happen anyway. It's been happening.
90 seconds.
Obviously, we have people that did call in, and I do want to let everyone know I'm not sure how full the switchboard is right now, but we are actually about to have to disconnect from the line that is on the streaming. So if you want to stay on the line, then you'll have to call in now.
At 661-467-2401, and you got about a minute to do that. So.
And then I could just answer questions because I did actually get through the message. Although I'm not sure if I have to transmit that again on at another point, but I did get through the message on as far as what the notes are talking about.
Good stuff. Okay. Yeah, so again, guys, if you're listening through Blog Talk, just refresh the page and get to call in via Skype. The button will be there. And I got your message, Sunshine. I will do my best. I'm just trying to get things organized. Talk about a lightning start to a helm. Literally run upstairs, have the computer opening on my way up the stairs just to try to get logged in. Man, it was just, it was crazy on the road, right? Tonight.
You know what it is, man. I know what it is. See, I've discovered something. I'm telling you. Like some people say, oh, that's trying to take all the credit now, but man, I'm hot on the trail right now. Like,
oh, of course you are. No, I change the world all the time. So how did you do this tonight? Tell me.
10 seconds.
Say that. I'm going to go ahead and let that thing count down. It always gets me. It's like I'm trying to say something. It's like 10 seconds, 5, 4, 3, and I feel like I'm going to explode over here. So.
Yeah, it's normal. Yeah, she likes to interrupt exactly when you're saying something. So.
Yeah, Blog Talk.
Yep. You have 10 seconds.
And that was the longest 10 seconds that I've ever seen because it still hasn't started counting down yet. Let me know.
Well, it just went there now. We got 50 callers in as it stands, so wow. We got lots of people there. You went and got. Oh, look at you! What a sweetie. Mike just went and got teas. Okay. Let me see. We got some people on the board, so let's get this thing open here. And Santo. Yep. Now, I had asked for people to get all the emails they can together of everyone that's involved in that case down there in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And we're going to hammer these guys. We're going to throw some serious intention their way. Okay? You've heard my cover letter that I have. I'm going to actually beef it up a little bit. It's going to have a bit more love and a whole lot more responsibility handing. You know, savvy?
Yeah, savvy.
Yeah, that's my game. That's how I play. I don't play nice anymore. I play only with unconditional love, neutral. So there you go. Okay, so and I definitely would love to chat with you afterwards as well. Let's get because you guys are in the daytime in Australia right now, so I want to get a lot of coordinated effort tonight, to get these guys hammered left, right, and center. So if that works for you, it certainly works for me.
Certainly does.
You know, so okay, well, let's get some of these lines open and see what we got. Okay, who we got here? Oh, we got a ton of people calling in. All right, so we have area code 773. I'm going to get everybody in. Just say who you are, and then I guess we'll just get the questions going. Who we got at area code 773?
Hi, it's Valerie.
Valerie, how are you? Oh, my God, how are you?
I'm great. Kate, how are you?
Awesome. Oh yeah, this game's shifting. Oh, and did Sevan, you didn't give it up as to, you know, why there was so much traffic tonight.
Oh, cause
so many cars and trucks off the road.
Yeah, I mean we're delivering something massive, so it's a traffic jam.
Oh yeah, do you think? No allegory there. Oh man, I got to tell you, as soon as people start seeing the allegories, when they start seeing the magic and the power that they wield, like I'm on exactly the same page from a different angle as you. I totally know what you're getting at.
I know, and you know what? And to me now, like it's not about knowing it. It's just about perfecting the message.
Being it, yes.
You know, because even, we're living it. I think you even have to really qualify of knowing it. You have to actually be it. So that's like goes without being said. But then this next thing is like the bridge, man. It's the bifröst guy. It's the rainbow bridge person. They have to get good at transferring. It's like you're somewhat of the shipping. You're the ship for the actual galaxy now. You have to take the precious cargo to where it needs to go. And right now it's energy from the message. And it's in a language that is becoming somewhat daunting to dance around. And that's why I locked into just finishing this this entire fiasco with this kind of projection, meaning trying to manifest something from verbal communication and hoping that it comes out the proper way. Like I've done the best that I can, but I'm really, really seeing now that when you tap into this other part, and don't get me wrong, I'll still be talking, but it won't even be what I'm saying. It'll be that vibration. You know what I mean? Like a person won't have to hang on it like, okay, I didn't get what you just said, that last sentence. Run that by me again. Or I kind of believe that and I don't believe that. It'll just be like, it'll be replenishing. Right, exactly. It's like, okay, then now we're talking. Like somebody's finally going to get something going on here. And that's really what we're talking about. Not from a sense, though, that we haven't all built something. And that's what I was actually explaining before the show. You know, definitely I would give the greatest levels of respect for those who have been covering the spectrum for this long. Like many people are burned out because when you see the Corpus Callosum, it's the same way. It's like whatever the bridge was, it's kind of burned out. And so to rejuvenate it again, you need something that can actually transmute radiation. Something that can transmute lead. And that's
I got a pair of heels for that. I really do. They're my dancing heels, and every time And I play tag team with me. Okay, one twin's tired, so I, hand off to the other one.
Right. And it's interesting you even mentioned the dancing because just on the physical level, what Osho used to do is when you came and stopped off at his facility, the first thing you would have to do is like 3 hours of this really silly dance where you just flopping your arms around, and people, especially that were down to business and ready to get serious about their soul, was like, this is just silly. And Osho was like, you don't realize that basically what the MK Ultra has done is it's made you stiff. And now that you're so stiff, then all your glands are not moving, and you feel like you must be proper. You feel like you must have the proper etiquette, and you must basically be in line with some program. And that is the part of you that is the shell that you need to break off. And then and it's interesting because we have something in front of us. It's like I can still feel back 6 or 7 years ago where I still, even though knowing a lot of things, didn't actually believe it was true. And sometimes I jump into that being, you know what I mean? It's like when you're talking to people, you kind of want to even say, look, I know you can't really understand what I'm saying right now and feel me, but just trust me, even though I know you don't really have trust right now, but just, look at what I'm saying, even though I know you can't see, but man, you smell me at least? It's like when you're trying to tap into these different olfactory levels of the individual, you basically are attempting to communicate through one of their orifices, such as the holophonic ear, to the third eye, through any different channel that you can actually get through. But it's like the pores of the individual then would become, if you see how much dirt is inside of a pore. I think Dr. Kassar did a good video where he shows if you just take a certain area of your skin only and you put vinegar and a couple other things, and then you move it, you'll see so much dirt in the skin, and then the skin being one of the largest organs to breathe, and you'll realize just why you can't really breathe until you actually clean the skin properly. But it's just like this kind of stuff that you could see that the body is high maintenance. It's like, that's why I see why it connects to the pentagram, and it connects with all of the material and the reality, because it is high maintenance. It's all about mind, material, and the minuscule levels of catering that you have to do with every single part of it to keep it from growing over. Like if you think about if the earth didn't have any kind of, people weren't at least cutting back trees. And I think people don't even realize this right now. They're like, no, let the forest grow, to a certain degree. But if you're trying to live around it, you can create houses and things. But once it gets so dense, the canopy, you won't even be able to see the sun at certain points. And so there will be insects, there'll be all sorts of stuff. So basically what I'm saying is that the forming and the fashioning of us and our planet entails some times and situations that are tough and that do hurt. If we want to keep experiencing that, then we continuously remain body identified and not metamorphosize ourselves into our next level, which is here. And that's why I was saying is that with so many different things, especially I've been in the world now for 36 years, 36 now, I believe, something like that, or 34. I think, I don't know. But anyway.
A couple of weeks
Yeah,
anyway.
I think it's 35. Yeah, there I am. I'm 30, 3 plus 5 is 8. So I'm 35 now. I've been in the world 38 years or 35 years now. And sometimes it seems like I'm kind of tongue-tied on the age. I'm like, oh, how long have I really been here? But what I'm trying to say is that I've seen enough in this world to see what's important and what's not important. I've blown money before, I've blown resources, I've blown friends, I've blown anything that you can actually get that has more value to it than you can actually perceive at the moment. And that's taught me to see where the true value in an investment would be. And that is in yourself. So people say, wait a minute, that is selfish.
No.
Is self.
Mirror,
right? And also, how can we go to others and seek to assist them with balance if we're not balanced? How does that work? It's like I'm on a tightrope, right? And I'm about to fall, and then all of a sudden you're going to help me even though you already fell. How does that doesn't even...
And you're 40 pounds overweight on one side, and you're expecting to keep the balance? Okay,
right.
Sure.
Exactly.
I just want to give one quick analogy as to what you were saying with, trying to explain things. And it's like this. Say there's a brand new movie coming out, okay, that we've already, some of us have waiting for this movie. We know it's going to be something big, but we're not quite sure what it is. And then there's some that have seen the trailer, right? And they're excited because they got a really good idea what the movie's about. And then there's those that have seen the movie as a preview before everyone else gets to see it. And then there's those that have actually acted in it.
Right. Exactly.
And then you try to explain that to people, and that really that's just a perception thing. And everyone has the ability to star in this movie.
Right. And then, I was also building earlier on, it was like basically people, I wrote this on Instagram, but people say that, they say that they're not asleep. And so obviously the big connotation of being in the matrix is a person is actually asleep to what the real world is. And then so a person may say, well, that's impossible anyway, because how could I be asleep if I'm walking around and I'm doing things? And then they still don't realize that when they go to sleep at night, they walk around and they do things, but they're still, quote unquote, sleeping. So if walking around and doing things meant that you weren't asleep, that's just a good way of showing that that's actually not true. So this is how we build, again, a fictitious world off of things that are not true. And the truth is that when we're in theta or delta, which is the average frequency of the individual and the planet, and I was explaining the reason why it's wobbling, you are basically in a frequency that is so sleep, that you're so sleep, you barely, just like in a dream, can actually take control. Versus the lucid sleeper, which is moving in the alpha frequency, which is actually between two frequencies. That lucid dreamer is actually able to control, in a sense, both worlds. And so you can operate in this reality in the alpha frequency. There are simple training mechanisms that you can use to do that. And what that allows, though, is that allows at least a person to actually have the spiritual insight that's necessary to see how to actually change the physical world with their actions. Because you would have to be able to see both of them simultaneously. And this is what, I can't give a good analogy of how that actually is a law to
I can share one.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you here, and I love using this one because there's been so many, but this is one of the the crackerjack moments. About 2 weeks ago, I came on the air and claimed the office of the Treasury Soul, right, or the Treasury Solicitor of the Corporation Soul, right. That's the single owner of the Bank of England, which of course, gee, I wonder how much money they control. But anyway, all of it. Anyway, so I claimed the office because the entity in there is acting in a dead fictitious manner. And what was it, about 4 or 5 days ago, guys, that Sir Paul Jenkins, the Treasury Solicitor of the Corporation Soul, announced his stepping down. So this is, guys, this is real. You need to know how powerful and beautiful you are, and right. What you're saying about cleaning the body is you're fine-tuning your own universe.
Exactly, and that's where it gets so simple right there, Kate, is because if a person can make the connection very briefly that their body is a universe based on the organs, etc., the entire layout, it's a map of the immediate universe, then you can automatically do the rest of the equation to how powerful you are by just watching the universe.
Well, we got a master map keeper sitting with us right now, and hey, sure. Santo,
for sure, on the nautics. So it's like even I think Lamb Lash used to go out on those voyages, is what he would call it, through the ocean. And then now it's also time. It's a major time also for individuals who are ready to become pioneers in a more of an advanced state.
No, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned the word pioneer because that's one of my keywords. Okay, that of my life path. And on the way back tonight, just a coincidence. On the way back, one individual had went off the road, and they took out one of the legs of one of the signs, and of course, it was on the sign, Pioneer Road. It basically took out one of the legs of the sign. Now I've got people. Valerie's already in the call. Do you want to take some? I'm just going to open up everybody's line. Just if there's people that want to ask you questions, just be mindful, guys, of background noise. When I get your mics open, they stay open. That's kind of how I do things here. So we have Valerie. If you got a question or comments you want to make, just go ahead, and I'll get everyone else's open here.
Thanks so much, Kate. Yeah, I sure did. There were a couple of things that I wanted to just touch briefly on. Here where I'm at in Illinois, in the United States, I actually used Kate's I who shall not be named, and terrified them so severely that they took me out of the courtroom and held me for 22 days.
Yep.
They put me in a psych ward, stripped me of my clothing, cut my clothing off.
Yeah, you went through a nice little hell. You've passed
Yeah,
through,
I really did.
You've passed through your crucifixion, hon. Well done.
Well, I am reorganized and ready to go back in with my claws out.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Leo.
Santa Claustro.
I'm one of those loving little kitty cats.
Just don't piss you off. I mean, that's. We need to get Santa.
I'm sorry, Kate.
I was going to say we just need to get Santa to do your chart and show you your PowerPoints, and let's have some fun. You know.
All right.
We are supposed to play. You know, this is a movie, and you'll find the more you play, the more gets revealed. It really is about losing that whole fear thing, and what Sevan's been saying, and we've all been saying about not letting these. Here's the ultimate answer. You know, I've talked about the what ifs. People say, "Well, what if this happens?" And what if? And I said, "Okay, well, try this one on. What if it doesn't?"
Right, and then the other thing is that who is it? It's us.
Yeah.
Why is it us? Like when they say, well, people, who's doing this to us? It's us, because we're choosing not to do anything. It's like it's an oxymoron. It's like the reason it becomes us. When you say, well, who is the Illuminati? Who is the reptilian? It's us. I just told you all itself. It all comes from the soul realm. It all comes from the subjective plane. So what else is there to say? Objective world, meaning all of the different answers that don't equal the truth. But why does it become us? When we don't do anything, by default, it becomes non-linear. The moment that you start not doing anything, then you start to become trapped below the speed of light. This is light knowledge. This is a light phenomena. When you get beings that understand how to operate the prism, this means they are speaking light languages, cone languages. This puts them at a certain level regardless of what you want to say. And then, like I said, when this knowledge is written down, then it can go into the hands of anyone. They can reverse engineer it, as you see, from implosion to explosion. It's a big thing. Implosion is like you having fun with your infinite energy. Explosion is like somebody trying to end your world where your seeds are planted. So we have to realize that that's also a major part of what's happened here. This is what, if you read the story, especially in the runes, it talks about Awas, a sacrificial character, meaning it talks about an extreme left brain logical hyperdimensional being, hyperdimensional state of entities that wanted to tap into the future of our failure, not the future of our success, and communicate with things that were a byproduct of that failure, which were beings that were completely degenerated, and pass knowledge between one another because of that was their state of how to turn all of our power against us. And so now we live in a dimension where our highest powers, our atoms, our monatomics, our nuclear devices, etc., are all being turned against flesh, against something that is created from slowed down light. So then when you ask yourself, is it against you? Yes, because you have taken on the form of slowed down light. But when you move beyond that, you see that how could you attack yourself? Like how could something be used to attack you that is you? Then you step out of you step out of the wonderland, Alice. You step into the subjective plane and start to work with the balanced field of your consciousness, which was your inheritance. This is your lot. This is what is being stolen. If there's anything that was being taken away from the person, it is actually their knowledge of how to navigate and their knowledge of what is the truth about the origins of their soul, which is unbegotten. All the rest of that stuff that gets started after that. That's why they say if you listen to it, if you listen to the serpent, as they say, or the stuck pentagram DNA, if you listen to it, then from that point on, you're already stuck. Why does it say that? It says because it's speaking a language. Meaning if you start to try to communicate with something in a form in which already cannot communicate, how do you expect for communication to take place? This is why a person has to turn on another carrier. And I was explaining this the other day, that frequency, when you get into it, you get deep into it, you understand that it's based on the carrier. Whether it's a radio or whether it's a speaker or whether it's a radio wave, or whether it's a speaker or whether it's a photon light, becomes the carrier of how it gets to you. And so this kind of message that we're delivering now, it requires our vessels to be in a certain state, so that way we become the carriers. It doesn't really even matter in certain tense what we're saying. That's what I was tapping into earlier. It's the energy coming off the words and the subtle communication that is going on between the organic vessels that are tuned into the conversation for their expansion, not looking at the conversation to find out what's wrong with it, not looking at it to see what they can disagree with, not in the state of mind that is either on one hemisphere or another. And this is how you work the minds towards balance. And that's what I was saying before. It's like, this is something that you will see billions, trillions have not been able to accomplish. But yet our world sits on the brink of having the knowledge and being able to apply it to the entire world. If there was any time to move to action, and this is why they were saying it's all in your will. And this is the interesting thing about the will, because if you look inside of yourself right now, you can actually make yourself excited. And you could actually even go crazy for a moment, but you can't do it for that long. Most people, they say, it's like if you wanted to just fake, as some people say, fake excited right now, like to the point where you were exuberated, like you were almost about to blow a fuse, you were so excited, right? If you did that, you'd only be able to accomplish it for like 5 minutes. Why? Because of the level of willpower, which equals the energy or the amplification within the individual. Because if the individual does not think anything of their supreme being, or does not have any relationship with their supreme being, which is their oversoul, which means the perfected side of their selves, if they don't have communication with that, then they have no power source. So that's what we were talking about on the show. So if they cut the umbilical cord in a tense, that is the power source that individuals have to their connection with their energy. And if once that's cut off, it's apparent because you don't have abilities. Your chakra centers, in effect, do not work. And so instead of us running around and saying, okay, they are working and they're really not, there were people who said, look, this has got to work because I got to get into where I know I'm from. You're not going to steal the last little bit of what I believe is the truth by snuffing it out with an Anunnaki story that they created us and we're a slave race. Come on. The only thing that is created is physicality, but the soul has no creation. That's the great arcana. That's the last little bit of level of knowledge. That's what, if there was anything that they say this character Jesus had achieved, it was the ability to understand the unbegotten. It was the last state of where you were in denial about your true level of power and ability within yourself, to that you are so magnificent, you have no beginning. So that means, and that's what makes it where you have no end. One must come before the other. If you accept the beginning, then you have an end. This is what I was saying about the language. Once you start talking to it, then it already has your mind. Once you start communicating in it, it's already got you. You're weaved into it. Now, here's another thing that I picked up, Kate. This will be kind of a connection of the last show we had, because the gentleman was talking about the log. And then you started talking about the log and how they claim the placenta, and the placenta's in the log. What was interesting, because I was listening actually to another write-up on something else about different knowledge, and it was also explaining it from the same perspective. It said that what we have to do is we have to rip away the web, or the what was called in their book the earth log, but the earth log meant a log of your deeds that are here on the planet in ignorance. Like just basically let anyone do anything to you, signing things that you don't know what they mean, incorporating yourself and becoming a part of a legion and pledging allegiance, and then, getting baptized or reborn into some other cult or creed, and all these different actions that you're making is all being written down. They say there's nothing that just goes on that is not being fully detailed. And so it's about ripping away that log, because notice how also, Santos, anytime they give you the motif of the diabolical character, they always do attach this one particular being to being the accuser. It's like when you're in there, it's like the district attorney. right? So there is this character who I've mapped out definitely as a Venusian character, definitely part of that whole angelic league that actually attempts to come in and begin to pull your earth log and people versus and state and stanzas, and next thing you know they got all this stuff and evidence and all these different things about stuff that you've done that when you did them you didn't even know the ramifications of what you were doing. But after all, that doesn't matter. If you actually kill someone, you really did still kill them, so you will pay the penalty for it. So the reality is for us is that we have to realize that this is in many extensions a trap that we're in, but to cut the web, because this trap is also being managed by a spider, and that's why they love to show the spider within the Lord of the Rings lore, because this is the queen of this world, as they say, that what makes it the dark side of the hive is this actual octagon. That's why the queen wears the 8-pointed star, and the whole Halloween's on October, etc., which is the 8th month, is Oct means 8. So the reality is with this is that it's the consuming part. It's like the last part to graduate before you make it to the 9, which is the infinite. I mean, you could see this number itself. It just continues to roll upon itself. What is it as simple as? Perpetual energy. Forget the rest of the mysteries. It's just perpetual energy. But before you get to 9, there's 8. It's like, okay, we're going to have to jump in it. Somebody be like, are you crazy? We'll die. And they're like, because if you notice how the 8 is situated, it's just like how the planet works when you go through a reincarnation. When you go through that vortex, when you go through that apex point, that's when you lose your memories. So that's actually when, quote unquote, the fake death takes place. So you got some individuals that say, well, I'm going to go ahead and just jump in because I know that truth cannot die. I've based my life on truth. That's what makes me not die. If you are false, because all false things pass away, they just do. They have to. They get blown out by truth. Truth comes through like a light and makes darkness and ignorance retreat into a corner. So this is also what happens when an individual brings light or knowledge, full spectrum knowledge. We're not talking about light as in white. Notice how the words are so close, because light is supposed to insinuate white. Light is clear from the sense of our training and our studies, because we have to compress. I've lived in a prison before, or a prism. So I know what it consists of. It consists of different groups, people who have different ways of life. And then each person stays on their side and everyone just looks dumb infinitely. Meaning if you watch just the whole duality thing and where it leads, it goes nowhere. So it means that the metamorphosis has to take place within us in order for us to see something different. And that's what I actually take serious. I'm like, okay, I'm serious now, because I had a time in my life personally where I had to get really serious. It like meant between life or death for me is how I see life and death, because there's something worse than death. Prison. Prison is like infinite death. It's like you can't go anywhere, but you're still alive. Imagine, especially if you're in a place that you don't want to be. This sounds like pre-Zion. This sounds like Earth sometimes. If we get trapped, if something webs, and that's why you have to watch all these webs, but if something webs our mind in, and then we can't get any further beyond that sphere, then you're like the real moth or the chrysalis even, not with a web around you. You're trying to get out, but you can't even get out. And so this is also the major thing about expanding, becoming expanded. And this is why if you ever get an opportunity to go scuba diving, start to brave your fears of looking into things that are deep. Because what it does is just like a fish, if you stay into a small tank, you're very small. You don't have imagination. You just can't really gander beyond your current surroundings. But if you get put into this huge pool, then you grow bigger. This means you have to approach your fears. And you have to identify them from their core level, mainly through the elements. Are you scared of fire? Are you scared of water? Are you scared of air? Are you scared of heights? Deep water? And if you find that in there, that's when you're doing your own alchemy. That's where you're doing your own work. And that's why sometimes I'll know when everyone is listening based on the questions that they ask. Because if a person was really thinking about the entire conversation, especially from earlier today, they will want, well, what happened with Atlantis? Is Atlantis, if you're saying Atlantis still is around, what are they doing? What was extreme left brain logical? Did they go android? Did the Aryans go android? Did the lion people end up trading themselves? Or what happened to the dragon queens? And what happened to the hive mind? What became of it, the matriarch? Is it still around? Are the Amazons still here? Are they still fighting? You see, first of all, is that their phi? Is Wonder Woman carrying the pentagram because she's from Venus too? Is Venus Amor? Is Venus and Amor connected? Is that the sun? Why is Amor in Spanish mean love? First of all, who is love? Where does that name trace back to? So you have to start asking these questions. That's why you'll always find the keys in words of power. It's not just about sitting there saying that word. It's about analyzing where that word comes from. Why is Poe in beginning of power? Because the power is in poetry. Why? Because poetry is riddles. It's the enticing of the individual through words. It's literal entertainment before TV. You see, now we are olfactory. We learn through our eyes because they have to raise the senses. If you notice on our face alone, the position of our mouth, our eyes, and our ears indicate the height of the actual communication. So basically verbally, which is the low where the mouth is the lowest level of communication that you can really do. Sensually, which is the nose, is the next level. Ears or hearing is the next level. And then eyes, the next level. And notice how at a certain point, things cut off. You don't even hear anything anymore. Very fast. Once you get out of the mouth, there's no more audible as you can hear, but the frontal lobe is projecting waves continuously. You know it because they put EEG to it. People are like, well, what do you mean? The frontal lobe is, well, come on, we're projecting something from the front of our brains that we can't see? Yeah, silly, they measure it with a EEG. And so this is the kind of ignorance that they've also left us in, is that when people say something like just that, hey, we are all conducted of waves and humans are playing a hymn in the whole orchestra of the organic organism that we're calling the universe, which is actually still the innerverse, though, considering that we're carrying organs, they're looking at you like you actually said something that is not true. And so this is what needs to be correct, because if the person doesn't believe it's true, that's why they don't have any energy. They don't have any truth. Truth is the only energy. So that's why when we live falsehood at any point, if we choose to live it, we give ourselves a time clock at that point. That's when the hourglass is turned over. That's what that symbol is. They turn the hourglass over because now the vortex in the middle of the hourglass is only a matter of time before it drains all your energy. And then what also is, if you put it in front of you, it's an 8. It's that same 8 thing that I was telling you about, the octagon. That's why they jump into MMA and all these different sports. They jump in the octagon. When you look at the actors getting initiated, they get initiated in the octagon. It's basically the gladiator time. It's Nephilim time. It's time for you to test your metals and test your elements and your flesh against your own kin. It's time for you to fight each other to see who survives, like dogs. Like, look how we've been domesticated, utilizing the dog genes, Canaan genes. You're not a lion anymore. Look, when you go to England, they specialize in domesticating dogs. That's their ilk. That's their creed. That's their culture. You see, so you have to just watch everything to see the back and forth falling between two great races that still are operating like hemispheres not put together. Who is the bridge? Some people say our children. We're all still children. We don't even know the basic principles to the astral plane. We can't even communicate with great grandma who's dead right now but still calling because we cut the umbilical cord. She didn't know that she wasn't going to death, that she was just going to live within our family. See, we all are family, but we don't treat each other like it anymore. I don't even have the time. That's why we were always together. We didn't have to have great distances, telephones and all this, because everyone was right there, close. You could feel the energy being shared within each individual. And this is what projected us. But now what you see is the disconnection, because that disconnection creates for us the lack of power. If you don't, and that's why anybody that is collected, though, when you see these groups, the reason why they can become so masterful over the dimension is because they're all in the same binding oath, pact, ritual club. They may not even know what's going on, but they all have a pledged allegiance to something, and they're now collected in that group. And that standing against, at times, a soul sovereign on the plane in which a world that wants to be divided is sometimes a hell of a show. But we have to realize as sovereigns that that's all it is a show. It's like Kate so profusely is always proclaiming, it's objective plane. We are subjective plane beings. We're souls. When we jump into the hypercubes, no telling what will happen. Basically, you can tell what will happen if you know how to master a cube. If you have a ring, if you can circle the square, if you understand the secret to the cabal, if you have tapped into the navel of the earth or the navy, if you've penetrated the netherworld, if you've gone as a deep sea diver, meaning you've gone deep into your mind to get the egg and fertilize it, you're a real seaman. You see what I mean? That's what we're talking about. But our lineage, when you see that seed drop, like if you see an oak seed and you see many of these different seeds, some of these seeds ain't like other seeds. Some of these seeds you can't just crack open into. You can burn them. And then next year, still a tree. So understand the difference in the seeds. We are seeds that we can survive. Now, you see, they're trying to soften us up and make us weak and act like we haven't walked through billions of years of unbegotten. Now we're all scared to get a little burned or a little hurt or a little afraid because we've become body identified. That is the result of it. So now we can turn it back on. And if there's any higher level of teaching, it is one that while the person engages in it, they don't even know that it's actually affecting them. Meaning today, the message that I delivered, it wasn't delivered in the words that I'm saying. It was delivered within the energy that I'm emitting. The words are just to keep your attention. But what needs to be done is being worked from a more balanced level now, not a higher level. So this is in a higher level now. We kicked it upstairs. We got legal on it. They're on it. We don't have to deal with this anymore. That's the new age. We let the angels do it. Stop it. There are now beings here that know what their job and their duty and their position is here in the great interverse and universe. Though the activations are in different levels, everyone has a calibration. They have an extent of what they want to achieve here. And that's okay. Some people, we get mad at other people's limitations on how far they really want to go with this. Until something else is opened up and someone else jumps in there and comes back, don't expect too many people to go anyway. That's how it always was. Consciousness is changed not by everyone, if you notice how the world works. It's changed by one person that realizes that they're everyone. Because once they figure it out, then it starts causing a chain reaction based on the activities of that individual that everyone else says, hey, maybe that's what I want to do. Maybe I should go ahead and do that. Like I see that as something far better than what I'm doing now. And then they start getting involved. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about changing each organism adjacent to us and the organisms that we're communicating with based on the actions that we have with them. And so that's all I really wanted to deliver as far as a message today. I'm definitely open to answer any questions, but I definitely want to tell people, like, this is it. Like, at this point, the world that is beyond this already exists. This is the other thing that I discovered that I just, I can't tell you enough. It begins when you want it to begin. It doesn't start when you get there. It starts when you get there for you, because that's when you become in realization of it. But it's already going on. It could not stop without you. What am I talking about? The soul force. It's infinite. There will always be birth. There will always be life. There will always be creations. There will always be saga. Sorry, you can't stop it. Trying to stop it is like trying to put your hand in the path of the sun as it slowly burns down everything that you call you.
There's a good idea.
So right, exactly. So the reality here is that let us get on it and let us ride it. We have the equivalents inside of us to go through these experiences while tap dancing, in a sense. Like we can get on the tightrope and do backflips. You've seen it exhibited from our species and our race. It is a symbol that we can get in situations and get to not only maintain balance, but even finesse. Oh my goodness, he's subjective and objective. How is this working? You see what I mean? But remember, I'm telling you about something that individuals figured out how to do. Subjective and objective. You're actually in two planes at one time. Yep. Have you seen the other world before? Yep. It's alive and kicking. How do I get there? Great. Good question. So let me Take you through this questionnaire. Where are you at? Let's go through the triangulation, mind, body, and soul. Let's see where your weakness is, your strengths. Let's go ahead and balance out your nodes. Let me also wake you up to where you are. You're in Jotunheim. It's like when you wake a person up, you got to give them a dossier. Look, you fell. You burned so bright while you were falling. I think you fell in love. You were attracted to this other light. It was so warm. You went deep inside, and then you gave birth to yourself. You incarnated inside of Kar, which is flesh, is slowed down light. Because generally you move so fast, you're out of this world. That's your story. And also, addendum, you do this all the time. That's like the letter that you get while you're on one of these planes. You have a tendency to continuously do this, replicating yourself, sending yourself into realities to have experiences. Why do you do this? Because you've understood one thing. As long as you make yourself available, when things are being built from your availability, you become a part of that. What am I saying? Souls is what everything you see in front of you is created from. So those who actually tap into the real state of consciousness, the truth state of consciousness, things are made from them that survive forever. This is how you live on both planes. So if you wanted to kind of like close the curtain on the last level of knowledge that was never received on this planet, it was that. You can walk both planes. They were showing it in our culture, in, like I said, the height of our realities, Atlantean, Lemurian, Dravidian, Aryan, Kemetan, Nordic. You could keep going. In all religions, I can separate, in all religions, frames and structures, codes, creeds on the planet, I can separate them into two categories. Why can I do that? It's a binary universe. It's based on flopping codes, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64-bit, I Ching, then continuously going in those tetragrammic numbers, meaning that it's flipping in the sequences of 4s, which become doors, basically vistas to new worlds based on the consciousness that you project yourself into at an angle. You're an angel, amongst many other things. So this is the connection that we have. When we strengthen ourselves, we take that knowledge, but we don't sit in it. I don't want to sit on a throne. I can't do anything. Like, it's like, oh, go sit on the throne. No, thanks. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Like, I'm ready to get out of here. Like, I'm mobile. See, don't let them take you into one state. I'm an angel. I know it. Elohim, Bey, Caliph, Malachim. And then that's the last time you heard from him. Last time he didn't even want to talk to you. He wanted to be addressed as your excellency. And you need to do full obeisance, which was to lay face down with your face touching the ground and to look up with the eyes, but not open them. Weirdness. That's what I was saying before. Look, they used to keep it. You couldn't see their face. You cannot see my face and live. These are the same characters, right? Like, this is when the concept of the supreme being was separated from who we are. And that's what we've understood with the advent of, i.e., the gods. Because they are the fashioners and shapers, Tubal Cain, meaning that they divide things. It's very simple. You don't have to get into the whole ancient story about the Gigi and the configuration of the portal and all that kind of stuff. It's plain and simple. They're civil. They use civilware. Does that make sense? They chop and cut and divide and splice. That's kind of their thing. They're surgeons. So that's their ilk. That's their race. That's what they've done here. They understand the soul. They know that nobody created the soul too, but they love to say they created it. Because any being that does not know their soul will believe that. And think about it. It's the turning point in everything. If someone offers you something that comes from you as if it belongs to them, you're in the ultimate state of alchemy. Now they've turned dirt into gold. They're making you mine your own mind. They turn you inside of yourself to consume yourself, Ouroboros. Turn your energy against you. You fight each other. You won't see the correction anymore. You won't see the connection. You curse each other rather than seeking the cure. You only divide more rather than coming together. This is the spell that they put in the language. That's why it is only used to demark and to justify. And to actually, to separate. It is the separator. In the beginning was the word. So what did the word do? It penetrated the void. And that's when the first life was born. You see what I mean? And then that first being, as I said, and the trials and tribulations that it went through. And this is why we were talking about how division, it's like a parting of ways. That's why when you leave someone, you say bye. Bye means two. It means that you're about to disconnect and you get sad. This is the separation. But one day we'll come together again. We know as we wave goodbye that we'll come together again because our entire constellation and our entire universe is set up like that. This is the time now. I have the tools to awake individuals, and there are others with me. I did not get this knowledge on my own. That's why many of us talk the same. We're explaining the same thing, just with a slight variation of our experiences. That's it. We are the bridges. If you've been to prison before, I have too. So we have something in common. If you have been downtrodden before, I have too. We have something in common. But guess what? When you really look at it, even the most fortunate of us are the most unfortunate. What do you think it's like to live in the body of a sequential? Someone who comes back to the same body over and over again and knows that they have to come and play a role. You see, like this is the gift and the curse at times for those who cannot remove the curse from their mind. It's like a song you can't forget. Every time everything's quiet, you start.
I call those demon loops.
Right. It's like you hear the melody every time things get quiet and you can't still your own mind. And so this is about being able to move those thoughts out of your mind by activating the power within that takes you beyond having to think about how to get rid of them. It starts to work with the molecular level of the body. And like I said, the cleansing, the supplements, the regimen every day, and getting into this as it's written now, like all the extra knowledge that we've received from people such as Kate on this show, Santos, carrying that torch for a long time, my friend, and other individuals that have been bringing the message, all at this point for us to take it ourselves also and ingest it. Take the cure. It may be hard, and that's when you know every time something is said, some people on the line, they say something is said and it pierces them. I've even had it in a point in my life where there was certain negative energies around and I noticed positive things made the negative energies uneasy. And so when you have negative energies inside, you hear the truth, it hurts them and they don't want to take it and they don't want to accept it.
You don't want to be anywhere near you either.
Right. But some say, man, you need to take this medicine. They can watch. And this is the new state. That's why I say on the bifrÖst, because those are hemispheres. It's like the hemisphere is always going to want to stay green. It's going to always want to stay yellow, positive, negative, whatever. But on the bridge, which is where the decision should be being made, that's when the organism's like back in control and says, oh, okay, yeah, definitely cutting it out for you. In fact, all you guys, pack your stuff up. I'm going to go ahead and collapse you guys. What's happening is we're all going to work collectively now. And if anyone is confused about exactly why I'm doing this, there are plenty of manuals explaining about the saga of what's been happening when we chose not to do it. And the other thing, I'm ever changing, ever evolving. Do not expect to come back to me a week or 2 weeks later and I'm talking about the same thing.
Same thing.
I'm not going to be running out. There is no running out where I'm from. I know I'm from there. That's the other thing. Like there's a knowing that you need to start installing, and this becomes the more that you get into yourself, you start to realize that, hey, this of who I am, you sit. It's called sitting in yourself. You sit in the seat and you wag your butt a little bit, and then get in there really tight because that's when you sit back into yourself, and then you flip the switches. This is the other thing because you are not the body, but it's a hell of a ship. I will tell you that this piece of machinery right here, it blow PlayStation 4 out of the water. Meaning that these days, what people really think is advanced and technological, you see how it's like what you've uncovered in the language, uncovered within the Black's Law, et cetera. They basically try to pay you for something or basically try to pay you for your energy an amount that is nowhere near worth what you're giving off. Right? And if you think about what the human body is capable of doing, we'll still run and pay, a couple, $1,000, $2,000 for some piece of equipment that can't even operate itself by itself, but then frown down upon ourselves when it comes time to spend $20-$30 on feeding the soul something that may allow it to get into a higher vibratory frequency. It's like, geez, man, let me have a break too. And that's why what we see is the beast has complete mastery over the system through the individual that has to remain in the material state of thought all the time. And that's why, and it's a fire too. Remember, the beast is also connected to fire. It is the hearth. So for most individuals, it's burning them up. They're on a time clock. This is like what you see when somebody becomes the president. You always watch, there's this gradual decay of the individual. They're like, man, has it only been 2 years? He looks like it's been 10 years. And it's because once you get into that low frequency, your life, as far as how it is on this planet, begins to decay rapidly. And so that's, I guess the expanse of the message that I have to deliver today. I do have another engagement to just get into really briefly at 9. But I wanted to just tell everyone that, man, it's on and popping. Like, this is the real thing. Like, I got this smile on my face now because at least the message got out today. It was a little shaky in the beginning, but I definitely knew that the current was very high. I'm sure that some people actually dropped off too and just thought that, hey, I guess he didn't make it to the show. But guess what? We made it to the show, and we were able to put it together. I assume between what I said in this little part here and then also what happened in the beginning should give people a more broader...
Sevan, again, this 7 nights a week, and again, that was my bad, trying to keep myself organized, which is at this point really impossible. But we got about a little less than 10 minutes. We got a few people in the call. Okay. I just want to see if they I'd love you to come back tomorrow. And these are the kind of roundtables, Santo. I don't think you're going to argue either, eh? That when we get everybody together like this, it's like you Santo, Sevan, myself. Kurt and so many others. This is where the real goods and the real truth comes out. So I got a couple of people here. If you want to make it back tomorrow night and the next night, you're more than welcome. You know that.
Okay.
So I just want to, and don't be shy either, Valerie.
Great. Wow, this rockin' show. Totally enjoying it. Great appreciation to Sevan and Santo and Ninja for handling things, and you, Kate, too. And no time is short.
Ninja. Oh, my God.
Oh, what? It was...
Oh, seriously?
Yes, huge thank you. Yes.
Huge.
And Sevan, I totally feel that power source that has no end. It fills me. It's filled me for years. Nice. And as I tell Janine, my wife, I feel this drive. I've had it for a long time. I don't know where it comes from. It's not intellectually based, and it drives me ever forward to become more of what I am, or to become whole again.
Right.
And I really appreciate that and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I'm going to just cut this real short. I have a question that is important to me. Because I've been looking for an answer to it, so I just, open-ended question, and this may be the chance. It may seem even unrelated, but anyway, the question I have is that in my visual scene, when I'm looking with my eyes, or if my eyes are closed, I see, you could call it billions and billions of tiny little pixels, and they are different colors. And it's always felt to me as somehow related to my path and to my awareness. I also see stuff like in the dark, lots of shapes moving and all kinds of things. Do you have any comment on that, or does that resonate in any way? Or
For sure. I mean, I'll make it brief. Basically, I have this phenomenon where when I wake up in the morning, I see this grid. And it's just as clear as day. It's something that, I can even close my eyes, open my eyes back up, and then it'll start fading away again. And I used to always question what this was. It was just the sheer fact every single day that something was going on. Then I started noticing that it also changed at different times. And now, fast forward into the future, I realized that what it is it actually is looking through a specific chakra. And then to add more information to this, I was going into some deeper techniques about what they were explaining these languages are capable of doing. I'll just leave it at that. And what it talked about is when you're at a certain state of your in alpha state, things appear to be somewhat like a fog or a mist or a pixelation around you. Then what the individual knows to do is project a particular symbol that has a specific, in a sense, each symbol has something specific that it does. And the person can actually combine the symbols, kind of like building a world really fast. And then when they lay those symbols out, it opens up this area in that what you're seeing. And that begins the manifestation in that chakra, in that world. And based on the planes, like some people manifest from the lower planes, and it doesn't often make it, especially if you're manifesting in the lower areas, it doesn't often make it to a third dimension in this reality. While also some people are in extremely high states of consciousness, almost ethereal, and never gets to this reality, right? But the individuals that understand how to mesh into the realities that are the closest to them and adjacent to them, and it's very difficult to explain this because it's actually biolocal, what makes it next to you. It's not a distance. It actually gives you this connection with you being able to see that actual gate. And so that's what you're looking at. So this is also what I've been digging through for the last, really heavily for the last 2 months now. It's about what symbols really do and how they really affect things. So that's just something I have to lay out another show for, just which I plan to do in the future. But I gave everyone this time A and B, which was A is wealth and B is domesticated wealth. So, or energy. Wealth, energy, currency is all synonymous. So this would give you an idea of what the first idea of when language was created by whoever created it. They wanted to create energy from it. And then their next move was, okay, now we need to take it with us because we don't want to be stationed. And then that's how you move through the language to see the sequences of how worlds are created, basically. And that gives you the ring. So hopefully that gives you a great deal of insight.
Thank you very much. So it definitely sounds like a useful thing. I've always thought of it that way. It's kind of odd because, I have clear vision,
it's the interface right there now. And this is what they were saying also in the techniques about how to visualize in vivid colors, because there's a rudimentary system first. And again, I'm being very selective about the words that I use here because I just don't want to go and insinuate to someone to do something and then they end up getting into something. So I have to introduce the entire system. But the reality is that there's an introductory system first, and it's first to lead you out of Jotunheim, meaning to lead you out of the English language. It's like there's a mother tongue to the English language, okay? And that's as much as I'll say about that. And so what happens is when you go back through that world and you not only learn how to be an alpha, which is right in between the worlds, so you can interface so they affect each other. That's what I mean. It's like right next door for you then, rather than you're trying to do stuff on planes and dreaming things that never happen. And then the next stage is you actually go into a deeper sleep, like a delta theta. And what I believe happens here, drawn from my experiences, is that you wake up this more deeper sleep version of yourself, also known as the guardian. And I believe that this is connected into Kundalini and why basically as they put it, a serpent or a large amount of coursing energy guards your activation. So that way, if you unlock it and it's premature, it actually surges you from this world, like you go crazy. So there is some kind of deeper knowledge that needed to be administered with waking up this godlike, supreme being-like force within yourself from the netherworld, which is where it is now sleep. And this is very specific. Like I said, exists in all cultures. This is the 100% truth. There's a netherworld version of you that is sleep. And if it's awakened, it has the strength of earthquakes. So they try to give you the back and forth, external, internal version of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, just let you know, we're down to about maybe 30 seconds or less. So
that's it. AstroQuest.com, Resistance2010.com. It's all the time. There's at least, 300, 400 recordings. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and there's tomorrow night too.
Yeah, that's true too. I got to see what's going on with the schedule. But it was definitely good doing the do. And I want to say thank you to everyone and all the people that were on the line contributing.
Awesome. Sevan, Santo, Ninja, Steve, and Valerie. Area code 831, you just want to say a hi?
Yeah.
There you are.
Definitely. Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear, hon.
Awesome. Hey, how you doing? This is Elke. Nice to hear your voice, Sevan.
Hey, Elke. Good to hear your voice also.
Nice to meet you, Kate and Santos.
Nice to meet you.
I don't know if I can get this out real quick, but I'm feeling the energy flowing real strong. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.
There we go. No. I know. Oh man, trying to get people in. It's okay. This is why you need to show up regularly so people can.
We should do like a telethon.
Yeah, just keep it grinding out, baby. This is a game.
I know we could build it so high that we can crack out of this thing. Like I'm telling you, like once that zone opens up, man, I can see everything. It's just about me being able to, and I stay there. But in the beginning of the show, there was so much crazy stuff going on. I was like, okay, this is really strange because there's always this first surge of people, and then they're like, where is it, blah blah, what's going on, blah blah. And these are the people that are not really going to stay anyway, because the people who are really going to stay, they just are there, and they can even understand the knowledge within what the message that was brought forth before, but I think what they didn't understand though was that there was no introduction or anything, like there was going to be something going on, so everyone's like, is this even the right channel? But I think personally, it was the right channel. Everything came through the way it's supposed to come.
Everything was perfect.
It's not like I don't have fat recordings sitting over here on the spool.
Yeah. Well, again, everything's perfect. That's one of the things I'm trying to get across to people. With perfection, perfection is the imperfection as well. In that when everything is perfect, there is nothing to fix, so it's boring, so that's an imperfection. So we continuously play this beautiful game. And one of the things you said earlier, which for me really nails it shut, the reason why people get excited is because of truth. It's like the truth of knowing what's coming when you're on a roller coaster, right? And you're getting all excited because you know, and it's going to be exciting.
This one's going to be fun.
Right.
You're going to get excited, and it's about to happen too. It's like once you step on this thing, there's going to be some there's going to be that butterfly feeling again, that one, and then pretty soon you're on that. What's the other one? The free fall.
Yeah,
that was the one that I personally didn't used to like to jump on